A British man named Alf Pritchett was killed in World War I before 1918. But we have a clear recording of him speaking in 1960. How is that possible? Pritchett came into the room where a direct voice medium named Leslie Flint was sitting. Flint had the remarkable ability of having people from the afterlife speak clearly through a voice box made of material from his body called ectoplasm. People sitting with Flint recorded the voices of the people coming through during his sessions. In this video, you will hear Alf Pritchett speaking from the afterlife about what happened during his transition to the next life, what life is like there, and his surprising reunion with a sister he didn't realize he had. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. I'm the author of 8 books with the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Alf Pritchett's body was blown up in an explosion in World War I, but he was still very much alive. He came through in a Leslie Flint session and spoke clearly about his experiences when he entered the afterlife and what he experienced there. People sitting with Flint recorded Pritchett speaking clearly. We are presenting his message in 4 parts: his description of what happened when he transitioned from Earth, his travel from the Earth to the next life, what he discovered about his life in the afterlife, and his reunion with a sister he didn't even know he had. This is the first of the 4 videos. Links to the other videos are in the descriptions below. We're presenting his words as spoken by a narrator because his voice was unclear at times and he spoke in a thick English accent. If you're interested, you can listen to the actual recording of Alf Pritchett speaking at the link in the description below.
One moment I was alive, and I always remember it so well. We'd been under a heavy bombardment practically all day, and I thought to myself at the time, if we come through this lot, we'll be lucky, you know. And then early morning, we were given the command to go over the top. Well, I thought, this is it, boy, you know. Oh, well, if I come out of this lot, I'll be bloody lucky. Anyway, I went. I must admit that it took all I'd got to really get myself over the top. Anyway, I don't like even going into it. Excepting that, all I know is that I was running forward, and I still kept running forward. And the funny part about it is that some of the Germans were coming towards me, and they rushed past me as if they didn't see me. I thought, well, that's a funny how do you do. All I remember was feeling in a pretty bad state, you know, sweating and, crying out loud. This is it, you know. But instead of them attacking me or in any way sort of taking any interest in me, they were rushing past me. I thought, well, good Lord, I can't make this out at all. And it took me quite a while to sort of realize what had happened. In fact, it was some time, I think, before I realized what happened. I went on, and all I can remember is running and running, and I thought, well, if they're not going to see me, I'm certainly not going to bother about them. I'm going to try and get into a little cubby hole somewhere and get out of it. And all I remember is getting into a hole in the ground that had been created by a bomb, I expect, at some time. Anyway, all I know is that I got into this hole and just crouched down and thought, well, I'll wait till this shindig's over and hope for the best. Might get taken prisoner, who knows, I don't. And I was lying there thinking to myself, well, it's a funny how'd you do. They didn't see me. They must have seen me, yet they went right past me. And I started to think about it, and I thought, well, I don't know. I'm lucky. And I don't know how long I must have been there. Anyway, I must have fallen asleep or something, because the next thing I know was that at the time, I remember seeing a bright light in front of me. It was just as if I woke up and there was a very bright light. And I couldn't make this out at all, because it was the sort of light I'd never seen before. It was just as if the whole place was illuminated, and it was so dazzling that for a moment I could sort of hardly look at it. I had to keep sort of closing my eyes and having a look. And I thought, well, I don't know, some sort of a trick of the light or something. I got a little windy, I didn't know what to think. Then all of a sudden, it was just as if I saw an outline, a shape or figure appear. And I kept looking and I thought, well, I don't know. I wasn't sure whether it was human or what it was. It was the outline of a human being, and it was full of luminosity, and gradually it seemed to take shape. And I was in an absolute sweat because eventually I could see that it was an old friend of mine who I knew had been killed some months before, named Smart, Billy Smart, we used to call him, Old Bill. And he was looking at me and I was looking at him, and it was, I don't know how to explain this. It was as if somehow there was a sort of merging, I suppose, in some way or other, of him and me. A most peculiar, I can't explain this. Anyway, all I know is that I felt myself getting up. And that struck me as odd that I should be conscious of myself getting up. In a strange sort of way, I thought, well, here's me been lying here probably all night, all day and night. I ought to be feeling stiff and awkward and uncomfortable. But I didn't. I felt as light as a feather, and I thought, well, something's gone to me head. Perhaps I got a whack, or something. I didn't know what to think about it. Anyway, I went towards him as if I was being like a magnet drawn to him, and as I got closer, I could see that he was, I don't know, full of vitality, full of life, wonderful sort of colour in his face. And then all of a sudden, as I got near to him, it dawned on me that he was dead. Funny thing was, when I first saw him, I didn't think of him being dead, although I must have remembered and realised in a way he had been killed some months before. Anyway, all I know is I was drawn to him and he smiled at me, and I suppose I must have smiled back. Anyway, he sort of held out his hand and I felt a bit daft in a way, because I know it's natural to shake hands, but there was me in a dug hole, a trench, a dugout, whatever you like to call it, crater in earth, sort of shaking hands with someone who was dead, and it sort of put me in a cold sweat in a kind of way, and I thought, well, what's going on here? I must be dreaming or something. Anyway, I could hear him speak, and he says, all right, nothing to worry about. You're all right, mate. Come on.
We have thousands of these recordings from Leslie Flint's sessions in which people alive and well in the afterlife came into the room where Flint and others were sitting. They speak clearly about their transition to the next life and their lives there. These recordings are further proof that you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Links to the videos with the other parts of Pritchett's message recorded in the Leslie Flint session are in the descriptions below. A link to the actual recording of Pritchett's voice is also in the descriptions.